Welcome back to the smartest year ever. No days off. Let's go. Everyone knows about the Pilgrims, the buckled hats, the harsh winters, the first Thanksgiving, the disdain for the Church of England, but almost no one remembers the man who actually got them there. And I'm sure they looked a lot like this, right? That is historically accurate. The Mayflower carried 102 passengers to the New World, but it wasn't the Pilgrims who captained it. That job belonged to Christopher Jones. Not Chris Jones. Christopher Jones, a merchant mariner from Harwich, England. Jones wasn't a religious separatist or a pilgrim at all. He was a professional sailor, a working man who'd spent decades hauling goods like wine, wool, and fish between England and France. The Mayflower was his cargo ship, 100 feet long and again primarily built for the wine trade between England and France and Spain, not transatlantic adventure. Jones co-owned a quarter of the vessel and commanded a crew of about 30. And the Mayflower was a lot smaller than I thought. I thought it would be a lot bigger than this. I think I might be showing you a picture of a replica. We'll see. I don't know what I'm showing you, but I bet I'm showing you a picture of a replica. And when investors known as the Merchant Adventurers of London agreed to fund the voyage to Virginia Colony, they hired Jones to take them there. The plan was simple. Two ships, the Mayflower and Speedwell, would sail together carrying 102 settlers, their supplies, and dreams of religious freedom. The execution was not as simple. The Speedwell leaked a few times, actually, forcing everyone to cram onto the Mayflower. On September 6th, 1620, they set out alone. The North Atlantic in autumn was unforgiving, to say the least. Storms battered the ship for weeks. One gale cracked a main beam so badly that the voyage nearly ended mid-ocean, until Jones's crew repaired it with a massive screw the settlers had brought for house building. At the time, there was no exact way to measure longitude, so they navigated almost entirely by what was known as dead reckoning, which was estimating distance based on speed, direction, and time. And fun fact, one baby was born during the transatlantic voyage itself, a boy named Oceanus Hopkins. And you can see the spelling of his name wherever I put that, because that's a cool name, huh? It's like Oceanus. After 66 days at sea, land finally appeared, Cape Cod. But due to the dead reckoning technique, they were hundreds of miles north of their intended destination in Virginia. The settlers wanted to continue south, but Jones knew the waters around Cape Cod were lined with treacherous shoals, and he made the call to stay put, and that single decision changed history forever. They anchored in Provincetown Harbor and later crossed the bay to what became Plymouth, a location that owed its very existence to Jones's seamanship and caution. Though Jones did write a brief entry in the ship's logbook, noting that the settlers had chosen an uncivilized place, very cold and unfit for habitation. And if you have watched my Plymouth Rock video, you'll know that I have been there in December, and it was truly the worst weather I've ever felt in my entire life. It's the coldest, just wettest, grayest feel I've ever felt in my entire life. I mean, it's great in the summer, but boy, that December tough. And another fun fact, a second baby, Peregrine White, was born when the ship was anchored in Provincetown, and his name means traveler. That's a cool one. Two cool baby name ideas for you right there. The Mayflower stayed in Plymouth through the brutal winter of 1620-1621, with Jones allowing the colonists to live aboard as shelter while they built cabins on shore. Half the passengers and almost half the crew died of disease, cold, and malnutrition. And Jones could have left them, but he didn't. He waited until spring when the survivors were stable before he was like, yo, I'm getting out of here. I'm going back to England. In April 1621, with only about 20 men left alive on board. And he never sailed to America again. Christopher Jones died the next year, March 1622, in Rotherhithe, London, at just 52 years old, and he was buried in the churchyard of St. Mary the Virgin in Rotherhithe. However, the original church and graveyard were rebuilt in 1715, and his exact burial spot was lost during that process. The Mayflower's timbers were supposedly later repurposed into a barn. There's a place called, I'll show you a picture of what's called Mayflower Barn, or what is known as Mayflower Barn, though historians debate that fact. And today in his hometown of Harwich, there's a Christopher Jones House Museum, and in Massachusetts, the Mayflower 2 replica that I may have showed you earlier sails in his honor. So there you have it, the forgotten man who captained one of history's most famous voyages, guided the Pilgrims through the storm, and then peaced out from the story. Without Christopher Jones, there might never have been a Plymouth at all. Go check out my sources, which can be found in the YouTube description. Leave me a comment, rate, like, subscribe, and follow. I'd appreciate all that. I'd also appreciate you going over and checking out my 45-second version that you find across social media at Smartest Year Ever for that condensed clip. And in the meantime, stay curious and stay clever on our quest to become the world's greatest conversationalist. I will see you tomorrow for December, for the final month in the Smartest Year Ever.